Okay, welcome to the audio commentary for 78 Hours in Aylesbury, which I made 10 years ago. I'm actually recording this the week of its 10-year anniversary. At least the posting of it. I guess the event itself was 10 years and 1 month ago, but yeah, we open here with this kind of montage of the past 2 years of Heatfest, the annual, at the time, Interfed for UK Backyard Wrestling in SWF, Satanic Wrestling Federation, run by the one and only Nada Pardis, who kind of facilitated this whole Heatfest extravaganza. So yeah, summer 2004, 2005, and this event that I recorded was in the summer 2006. The music here at the beginning is from, I believe, the Children of June soundtrack, randomly enough. Spelling mistake there, it said Cardiff Train Station, yes. So we open up with Rockstar here, who's got this headphone attached to his bag, and I don't even know where the idea to do this kind of quote-unquote documentary came from, but it certainly started here, outside Cardiff Central train station, the morning that we were leaving. I had my camera, and I was taking my camera along to film my matches, but I realized that my matches weren't going to be very long. I was only having 2 of them over the 3 days. The planned 3 days at least. The event ended up going 4 days because we all loved it so much. But yeah, I mean, here you go. You got Blaze, Nikki there. Good old Nikki. I miss Nikki. Haven't seen him in a long time. But I love that I did this. I could have done this for every event that I went to around this time, around this period. But I'm glad that I at least did it once. And we've got Gav there, the one and only Napalm. Just to see these guys, 10 years later, just the stuff that we talk about on trains going up to NAW or SWF or Manchester, all those places we used to travel all around the UK for. It's fun to see just a little bit of that footage back, and the banter and everything. But I guess it wasn't a premeditated thing. I'm going to film a documentary about this whole event. Not that I even think that this 78 Hours in Aylesbury video is a documentary about the whole event. It's more just snippets, snapshots, kind of from my point of view, I suppose. I'm not really in the thing myself. Just behind the camera and filming and just asking people questions and stuff. And it just happened. I just thought, hey, let's record some of this. I was so excited to be going. This was my first Heatfest. I'd been to the Cold Fest of the year previous in 2005. But the Heatfest that year, me and all the people from WCW were banned from, which is a whole other story. But we were unbanned for this year's event, and so here we go. We got Dave, we got Louis, just 2 of my favorite people. I mean, almost everyone in this video is one of my favorite people, And it was, again, fun to capture Dave here. Dave is just one of the funniest people you'll ever meet, who just is constantly on. There's always something funny to be heard when Dave's around, there's always laughs to be had. And he literally, he would just take something like a leaflet from a train, and just make something out of it and just start a whole bit about, a game show and all this, and he'd start winding anyone up, who would let themselves be wound up by Dave. That's the key thing with Dave, he will just wind you up mercilessly, and you've either got to laugh along with it, or you're just going to get burned, and there's nothing you can do about it, really. But this is just classic Dave, in less than 1 attempt. It's and I like how he's looking at the camera. He's very aware that he's being filmed, but it's no different. He's not putting it on extra because the camera's on. This is what Dave was always like, And this is the passed out guy in the train who Dave decided we'd include in the video by just walking over. Star Prize is an overdose and this man got it. I don't know why that guy was lying down there, but it was funny to include it, and I was very nervous about filming him, but I did it nonetheless. And here we got Steve Farrell, the one and only Nature Boy. We met him in London. We got the train from Cardiff up to London. And there's filming Rockstar asleep there. And now Farrell's talking about how excited he is about Heatfest. It really was the highlight of the year. The Heatfest was it was the best, Dave used to call him Fat and Ugly Girl. Again, Dave would get mercilessly kind of ribbed as well, to be honest. So I think that's kind of where his humor came from. He kind of, it was a defense mechanism. Already we're at the Riviera, you know, this is moving very quickly. But yeah, we went from Cardiff up to London. From London, we got a train to Aylesbury, which is where the event took place, hence the name, 78 Hours in Aylesbury. And so we met Steve on the train. I filmed a little bit of him there. And here we have Alex, Cruiser fan, looking very different than he does now, wearing a Rolf Harris t-shirt, which I should probably blur out of any subsequent showings of this. And he needed to get down and film the match. And here's this weird little thing that happened between Nada on the left there and Joey on the right, one of his best friends. They did this thing where they were trying to act out like they were getting in a fight. And then it turned out to be a quote-unquote work, you know, they worked this, you know. It wasn't quite, I think it went, I think Joey think it went down a lot better than it did, and you got Billy and DOD there trying to grab him, and here we open Heatfest with Rockstar with his spangly eBay jacket, you know, I mean, Rockstar, what a character he was. I could talk about him for a long time, you know. And I think this was his only Interfed. He came to a couple of NAW shows, but he never came to any other Interfed, so this was kind of a lightning in a bottle Rockstar event, really, when he came to Heatfest in 2006. Now, I have footage of lots of different matches, and so there was no real kind of, you know, oh, I want to include this match in the documentary, and I don't want to include that match, but for some reason, this one just stood out to me. He got ads there giving Gav a hug with his fag in his hand. But this was just really cool, I guess, and I think it's probably because, you know, the Welsh guys are in it, and it was us, I think the 6 of us who travelled up there, me, Dave, Gav, Nikki, who else was there? Shane, SRF was there too, I'm sure that, oh, me, of course, right, so there were 6 Welsh guys, me, Gav, Shane, Nikki, Dave, I can't count. Anyway, let's just focus on the match. It was just a really good match. We have Mannix there, who was awesome, such a great big guy, and it was so cool to see guys like Gav and Dave, who hadn't quite got their shake at the, you know, wrestling everyone else in the UK quite at this moment. They'd had a few matches against big people, but you know, they were still coming up, you know, much like I was, and so to see them in a match with a guy like Mannix on a big stage like this was really cool. They did awesome. It was a great match, and so like I guess that's why I included it here. And I just love the ending, where Mannix just leaves for some reason. He's gone. I don't know why he would do that, but it leaves Gav to win the match and give us this fantastic post-match celebration, which is just hilarious. The look on his face, you know. it's just this Gav, you know, you gotta love him, you know, and he was one of the most popular people in the community. I think everyone loved Gav, you know. He's just such a great guy, funny and funny in a different way than Dave, say, but and just he really had something as well with the wrestling, and had to include a good one, Dave. That was another thing that it's Dave kicking me off the apron here. You know, me and Dave would have our little spats, you know, and sometimes it would seem like we were joking, but there'd be a little bit of sentiment underneath where we were quite annoyed at each other, and so it's fun that we captured that. And this was the end of my match. Of course, I would have loved to include the whole match or like clips of it, but I didn't want to overdo it and make it about me. I didn't want to be like, here's all of my match. So I just included the ending, which is a cool little spot. Me and Nikki had a match. I don't know why me and Nikki had a match. You know, you'd think traveling to another Fed, you'd, you know, wrestle other people, but it's a funny story. You know, we had to get an Alan Partridge reference in there. And there's Louis stuck on the scaffold. That scaffold was great. You know, people would sit up there and film, hang out. It was a really nice addition to the Heatfest setup. I want to capture this as well. Just, you know, guys sitting around chatting. You know, there's DOD in the back there, Gav. You know, just all the little extra bits in between the matches. I wanted to just, you know, collect bits of it and things like that, and you know, speak to Nicky how he was enjoying the event and stuff like that. And other clips I'd filmed, you know, people just flipping in the ring. There was this football thing going on, so people were trying on the football shirts, and in fact, I think this might have been at the end of the first day, and they were going off to play football. Yeah, because I didn't include that much wrestling. Oh no, this was the end of the first day. I guess everyone was getting ready for the football straight away, so they put the shirts on. This is interesting. I don't know if you can notice because the footage is so bad quality, but Farrell actually has grey hair dye in some parts of his hair there. It was to kind of go along with this kind of old man Farrell thing that people were talking about on the UK Backyard Wrestling Forum, particularly Tyrant, who was facing him in a match. He was calling him old man Farrell, and so Farrell was kind of conforming to that and put grey hairspray in his hair for some bizarre reason, and I guess we'll never know why, because that's just the way Farrell is. He does these things, and we never quite have the explanation behind them, but it's funny nonetheless. And I think that was the only time he ever did something like that. So, well, not something like that. He did lots of strange things, don't get me wrong, but you know, it was the only time he actually dyed his hair grey. We didn't dye it. He put like grey highlights in. It was very strange. And he's of course ref in this match. Adds a little nod to me there, but yeah, Adds is one of my best friends in wrestling, and so I definitely had to include this match. But also because, as you'll see, there's a very significant ending to this match, which I thought would be fun to include in the video. And now it's just more of a curiosity, and we'll talk about that when it comes. Now I want to settle this now. How many Welsh guys were there? Right, there was me, Dave, Nicky, Louis, Gav, and Shane. Yes, there were 6 Welsh guys. Okay, I thought I got that wrong there, but see, they did this little spot, but me and Ads did that like a month before, so kind of stole our stuff there. But this was a great match. You know, Ash was incredible. You know, Ads was incredible. So it was a perfect matchup for, I think this was the main event of the first day, for the NAW Southern title, which didn't stay around very long, but you know, NAW would occasionally defend the titles at other events like Heat Fest. I think the year after this, Ashley Dunn won the NAW heavyweight title at a Heat Fest, so you know, every now and again you'd see an NAW title defended. But yeah, this is a really fun match with some cool spots and, you know, quite a few high-risk stuff. I think I just saw John then taking the brunt of that plancher by Ads. That's, again, another backyard kind of trope. You do a plancher and no one catches you, or someone who's not really even in the match catches you. This was cool. Just the setup of this entrance was brilliant. I think we only had this for the first day. That was great, you know. Even if it took them ages to set it up, just the visual of that, doing a move on top of the entrance, was awesome. And it's just the kind of thing that I know Ads loves doing. He likes doing what he once quoted as to me, saying that he likes doing kind of big, safe, high spots. You know, like I love a table bump, you know, but you know, he doesn't like to go super dangerous. But you know, as long as it looks cool and it has this epic effect, then Ads is all about it. Yeah, I really enjoyed this match at the time. I still do. And so, like I said earlier, I included the Dave, Gav, Mannix match because it had 2 of the Welsh guys, and this is a kind of, you know, the Welsh guys going to Aylesbury for Heat Fest, but this was a big match, and I felt like including it in the video somehow. And there's a great looped gif of Farrell's reaction to that bump where he's spinning his head around set to Benny Hill. I wish I still had it somewhere, but his reaction to that is fantastic. So Ads beats Ash. No, Ash beats Ads. They got similar names. Give me a break. I don't know why he's got 2 titles there. Oh, he was also the junior weight champion of NAW. I think they just retired this belt after this match, I think. So here we have the big Ads speech where he kind of retires as Psycho Kids, as Ads. Farrell's double take there, selling it. Love it. So yeah, I thought I would include it because this was, you know, Ads' last match ever. Which, you know, that happened. I think he wrestled the next month. No, he didn't. When did Ads come back? I can't remember, but it was pretty soon after this. So yeah, he wrestled. I know he wrestled at an NAW show at the end of 2006. So it wasn't more than a few months until Ads was coaxed back into wrestling. But he did the big retirement speech here. You know, people are clapping, chanting Ads and stuff, and you know, Farrell's reaction again, that little double take. Farrell is one of the weirdest people, but I love him for it. You know, he used to attract so many weird characters, but he was a weird character himself. You know, so there we go, the big epic final match of Ads. You know, and he went on to wrestle for another 5 years. But I stupidly bought it at the time. I think a lot of us did, but we should have known better. I got a little talking head with Joey there. I knew it would be interesting to just just grab Joey and say, hey Joe, what do you think of that match, just to include it. So at this point I was kind of very much in the mindset of, I'm going to make this documentary. Like, you know, I've filmed matches, I've filmed bits and pieces and clips and things like that, and so I knew I could go and charge my camera in the Riviera, so I thought, let's do this, let's try and film as much as I can and put something together. Now this little section, it has a lot of us just sitting down. The people who weren't playing football, we just sat down on the field next to the football match and watched it. But invariably, you know, people just start, you know, heckling, and we had Evo there throwing some very kind of questionable racist slurs at JJ Cage's you know, expense. So that was interesting, and I probably shouldn't have included it in the video, but you know, we were all quite young and stupid. But I'm sure there's quite a few people in the UK backyard wrestling world who still find that stuff funny. And it is kind of funny in a oh my god facepalm kind of way, but yeah, interesting. Day 2, Monday. So there's Evo. There's Evo there, the racist himself. I'm just kidding. Calm down, relax. He's not a racist. He just said some questionable things. That's all the guys who are going to take part in the Cruiserweight Rumble, which I didn't include in the documentary for whatever reason. Again, I just found the image of that was hilarious, seeing all the guys set up on the hill. Just that in itself, and then the fact that Rockstar was going to be in the match was just hilarious. I should have included it in the documentary, really, you know, because I set it up with that little, you know, that little clip. And this is kind of a pointless little exchange between me and Alex where he thinks my camera's off because the red light isn't on. Now this, I'm very glad that I captured, because this is an example to me of what made backyard wrestling so much fun. We had these 2 kids, didn't know them, you know, a lot younger than us, probably, you know, 12, 13, something like that, and they kind of had seen us, and they had kind of moved closer to the ring throughout the day, and were kind of, you know, doing a little wrestling themselves. So we just chanted, in the ring, and we got them down. They had entrances, you just saw people marking out, everyone going nuts. They don't know what they're doing, they're slamming each other down, everyone's going mental. It was just, this is what I would call just an explosion of fun. Like, this amount of fun shouldn't be legal, you know, like, it just brings a smile to my face, you know, these 2 kids. And we weren't laughing at them, we were laughing with them in a way, you know. A little bit of an Oz comment there, you know, it was just fun, you know, let's just get these kids in here and just let them see what they can do, you know, and let's just overreact to everything and make them feel like they're, you know, having an amazing match, you know. Everyone's a winner, we're having fun, they're having fun. And then suddenly people were like, let's just get in there, let's take moves from these guys. There's Ads taking a DDT off the kid. And I think we called them Stone Cold and Brock Lesnar, and then of course it just devolves into a stunner fest, you know, everyone running in and taking a stunner. There's me on the right there with Dave taking a double stunner off off Alex. I guess I must have handed the camera to someone. I just couldn't help but get involved in the festivities. And here's the Heat Fest stunner, as it's now become known, where this kid didn't even know how to do a Stone Cold stunner, even though he's wearing an Austin 316 shirt. This is ridiculous. Selvey getting sandwiched into the turnbuckle there. Woodsy taking an F5 off Dave for no reason. It's just, you know, it's hard to wipe the smile off my face even now watching it. It's just brilliant. I don't know why the footage is so dark. I think the brightness levels on my camera were all kinds of messed up. It looks like this is taking place almost at night, but it was the middle of the day. It was quite cloudy, but he gave the kid a stunner. And then Oz and Selvey, they do a little thing, and there's the Heat Fest stunner, the kind of headlock version. Oh, what's he gonna do? Now, you'll see this in a second, but obviously we were loving this, we were going crazy. Nada decides to kind of nip it in the bud and throw the towel in and kind of, you know, get the kids out of there, and and Joey going for a stunner there. Oh my god, it's absolute mayhem. I think I turned up the brightness levels because it was so dark, but throwing a tire at him and stuff. But yeah, most of us were loving this, but there were a few people who were not too impressed by it. You know, I know Farrell for one. He wasn't impressed. He didn't find it very funny, you know. And I think Danny Legend right here says that it's what he'd call a battery waster. And Farrell agrees, you know. For once I agree with him, you know. And in a sense, maybe it was a battery waster in comparison to the matches that were happening. But the fact that I got that into the thing was great. I'm glad I filmed it. I'm glad someone filmed it, you know. Now Ads has got a headache because he took a DDT off the kid, and I was just asking him here, how do you feel that, you know, the last move you ever took in wrestling was from some random kid? But obviously that didn't turn out to be the case. And now we have a drunk rock star. Because I'm drunk and it's hilarious. Farrell is just gleeful to be in the presence of Rockstar, you know. This is Alex with a bang bang. This was another cool thing that, you know, I'm sure you can do now, but I know that most HD camcorders don't have this built-in night cam, you know, what's the word for it? It's not called night cam, it's called night vision. Well, yeah, we'll call it night vision. Whereas my Hi8, was it Hi8s, I think? I was taking a picture there. I want to see that picture. I wonder if that picture exists, if Dave pulling a funny face in the middle of the night still exists. We got Shane there, drunk and doing flips into the ring. You know, as he does. Front handspring there. Even drunk Shane could kind of just outperform anyone in terms of athleticism. Gav getting in there with him as well. But, yeah, you could have this night vision stuff, so you could film this stuff at night. Which I also, there's a lot of that in the sequel, another 78 Hours in Aylesbury, but I love that, you know, my very basic tape, you know, I think it was Hi8 camcorder at the time, had this night vision, and there we go, there's a big pile of puke. He's gonna puke! You're welcome. At one point you hear Dave saying, like, why are you filming this? But I don't know. You got to capture it, warts and all, right? You got to show people having fun and clanging cider cans together, but you got to show them throwing up as well, I think. And I'm glad I filmed it. There's a brief clip there from Rockstar's match, the lake match, and here's the classic Louis line. You know, I wish they chanted water match. Get it? Water match. It's hilarious. You know. Got Bazza there emerging from his tent with a sleeping bag on him. Farrell's always on hand. You know, you could put a camera in Farrell's face at any point of the day, I feel, and he'd be able to provide you with something. Jesus Jr. looking very fresh faced there. And there's Farrell complaining about Gav puking all up the drive near the tents and stuff. But he's having a good time with her. It's weird because this is something that I've kind of gone back and looked at multiple times over the past 10 years, and so, you know, the lines in this documentary feel like lines from a movie to me because, you know, they're just ingrained in my head up to a point. For one, because I looked through the footage so much as I was editing it, and then again, like I say, watching it over the years, and, you know, capturing a Farrell rant, you know, talking about someone shitting in the Riviera toilet and him being pissed off about it is invaluable stuff as far as I'm concerned. But it was fun to film this. This gave it another flavor. I felt this nighttime stuff. You know, it wasn't just wrestling. And speaking of Farrell, you know, he was quite critical of this video. He didn't enjoy it very much. I think he liked all the non-wrestling stuff like this, but he didn't like that I included clips on the wrestling because he felt like that was best kept to the wrestling comps themselves, the wrestling videos. But I disagree. I think it was good for my enjoyment anyway. I like that it has that mix of the wrestling and the social, which is what I continue to do with the next one, another 70 hours. This is another example of just, you know, great memories. You know, just sitting in some. I don't even know whose tent that was. I have no idea whose tent that was. But we went in there just to sit down and just, you know, have a chat, have a laugh. You know, be entertained by a slightly drunken, tipsy rock star. You know, listen to Dave and the other guys screaming in another tent, and it was just great. You know, great fun. This is probably one of the top few events I ever went to in terms of just the wrestling was great, but the social was great as well. The social was just off the charts. This event, it was phenomenal. And it made me wonder why people didn't do more of this, film all the the little bits and pieces. But I guess the thing is, people are they're too busy having too much fun, and that's the truth of it. And that's probably a good excuse to to not have been filming some of this stuff. But I don't feel like to that end that I missed out on much by filming a lot of it, because you take, I probably had about 3 hours of footage, something like that. That's 3 hours out of 78. We were there for like 3.5 days. There was a lot to enjoy, without the camera being on as well. And a lot of times you'll miss some of the things that it would have been great if I'd filmed that for the documentary. But when you do stuff like this, especially when it's very just off the cuff, it wasn't a planned thing. Right, I want to get this, I want to get that. If something interesting was happening, I'd grab the camera, I'd turn it on and see what I could get. So it's very much just a kind of, just see what it is on the day, and just fly by the seat of your pants, film what you can and see what you get afterwards, And I was very happy with this stuff in the tent, And this little story of Louis trying to get a free beer from the Riviera, There's just so much, There's so many classic moments that were never recorded that people still talk about today. But it's nice to capture some little ones, And at this point, I do feel like I'm kind of beleaguering the point a bit. I'm talking about capturing memories and snapshots of things. Kind of saying the same kind of sentiment, but that is what this was about, and I was very happy with how it turned out in the end. Mannix there. It's a great way to look back at something. It's a hell of a way to look back at something. Here's Louis in the Cruiser Rumble. I guess I didn't include the match so that I could kind of include some clips here when we were asking him about it, almost interviewing him about it. And again, classic lines. How do you feel about being in the Cruiserweight Rumble? Well, the fact that I'm blatantly not a cruiserweight troubled me somewhat. It's just only Louis could answer a question like that, and we see him trying to flip off the ring and banging his head on the way down. It's just like, it's brilliant. It's classic Louis, and he's another guy who I haven't seen in years. And actually, by all accounts, just add a beard onto that face, he looks exactly the same. And I have no doubt that he is the same, big, lovable Louis that he's always been. One of the nicest people I've ever met or known. And I wish I saw more of him, which at the present is none at all. Again, I haven't seen him in years. And it's always fun to look back on things like this and kind of, there's pictures as a way of looking back on memories, and then there's videos. And I feel like this is a good way to look back on that event and that time, that period, where things were so different in all of our lives, from the lack of responsibilities in some cases to how different we really were. When you look at people like Dave, Gav, who look a lot different now and act a lot different now, I would say. Well, maybe not Dave. I think Dave's always going to be Dave, but definitely it was. You see Dave with the kind of that we call the awkward stage haircut, and then he grew it really long and it fit him a lot more, and he's kept that long hair ever since. So it's fun because at this time, Dave was kind of at that middle period. He was kind of getting over with everyone and making people laugh, but he was still seen as a joke, which is the truth, but I think, a year after this, Dave fully kind of transformed into one of the guys, like proper, like he was at the top of the food chain as far as the social circle was concerned. And so it's interesting to see him at this point where he wasn't quite there yet, and I certainly never was top of that chain, but so it's not like I'm saying I was at this point. At this point, I was very much almost a silent spectator. Had a lot of fun and stuff and got involved, but I hadn't come out of my shell fully at this point, I don't think. And then this match, which again has none of the Welsh guys in it, and I guess I just was so surprised by how good this match was that I decided to include it. And it was an interesting one because these two guys, Chris Taylor and Danny Legend, both guys who at this point had wrestled, professionally and stuff like that, and continued to kind of go back and forth between professional and backyard. And I guess Taylor was kind of championing the backyard aspect of it here. Danny Legend did a really smart thing when he got involved in backyard wrestling at this point in time, because he very much would use the fact that he was an indie wrestler as his heel heat in backyard, and it was a very smart thing to do. And the often kind of chanted phrase was "failed indie wrestler," which is hilarious. I don't actually know what Danny Legend is up to these days. I think he's still wrestling, but I'm not too sure. Great guy, great wrestler. I had one match with him before, and I remember sitting down with him after the match and asking him, why he still did backyard wrestling even though he was, doing indie stuff. And he just said, "Man, I just love wrestling. Any opportunity he could take, he wanted to wrestle." So I had a lot of respect for him for doing that and kind of going against what at the time was quite a negative stigma, backyard wrestling. It's not seen as much of a kind of no-no anymore, I don't think, but 10 years ago certainly, and I think it was a lot different. And a lot of the guys who did do indie wrestling very much tried to hide their backyard stuff, but not so much now, I don't think, from what I've heard anyway. And then Chris Taylor, he's still wrestling now, which is awesome, and he just looks, the guy looks like he's cut out of granite, like he's just ripped, he just looks in incredible shape, and another amazing wrestler. I wrestled him once, and it's so easy, so fun. I wish I'd wrestled Chris Taylor many more times and had a proper big match with him, but it is what it is, and this was just a really, really fun match, and I guess that I decided it was appropriate to include it in this video. Day 3, it felt like the event was winding down a little bit at this point, I think. Certainly people get a bit tired after they've been, drunk for 2 nights, and, throughout the day even some people would be drinking all day and smoking and all that good stuff. So yeah, day 3 definitely felt like a wind down day until we got to Tyrant and Farrell, which was just incredible, and I didn't include in this documentary because I knew that John was making a big video for Tyrant, so I didn't want to kind of touch that and kind of make anything. But I didn't have the footage either. Actually, that's why I didn't do it. I think I could have got the footage from Alex if I wanted, because he had all the footage from the 4 days that was filmed from the scaffold, kind of the scaffold cam, And that's another thing about Interfed, sometimes it would be like, right, who filmed this match, who filmed that match, there wouldn't be much of a strict kind of filming setup where it's like, okay, so he's going to film all of this and he's going to film all of that. It was just like, okay, match is coming up, is anyone filming it, Which is when I started to realise that I need to bring my camera to every show, because I don't know if my match is going to get filmed, what's going to happen, so I got to make sure it's filmed, and to trust someone who can film with the camera, which sometimes you wouldn't be able to find that person, so you'd have to kind of it'd be a bit of a crapshoot, just give the camera to anyone. Some brutal spots in this with the ladder and everything, but just really solid, really entertaining stuff, this picture perfect shooting star press there, brilliant, really good match. And yeah, it's good to hear that Chris Taylor is doing well now with the indie wrestling. In fact, I think he just won some tag titles on the indie scene, so that's awesome. Another guy who, just like Danny Legend, I never really spoke to that much, but had a few chats with him and had one match with him, and I felt like there could have been more, but it's just the way it goes. And the classic na 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 hey hey goodbye chant. As you can see, the entrance there has been kind of deconstructed from the first day. It was a bit too high maintenance, but also I think it was the morning of day 2. A few of us kind of set up that ramp there with the wood and the tires and stuff. I had to include this clip of Nikki taking this ridiculous jackknife powerbomb off the apron. That's just unreal. I would never take that. I would never take that. Even if I was going to land on my back and not my neck, I wouldn't take that. So I had to include this clip. It kind of is jarring. It just slots right in there, but and not in a very smooth way either. Just to see the look of concern on people's faces, that was a moment. And here we have kind of the build-up. We have John there just kind of getting weapons ready for the death match, but then we never see it. So I had that clip. I just felt like it needed to go in there and be in chronological order with everything. So I just thought, well, I'll just throw it in there. Anyone who watched this video knew about the match, had seen the match, or so they knew what that was in reference to, that John was getting ready for his death match. Now we have this match, which was very interesting, and another one that I just loved. It might have almost been my favourite match, besides John and Farrell, because this is very much tribute match, to what we all loved about pro wrestling. We have Dan Selby there in the blue and Short Round in the white. these two guys who had wrestled each other for years and years and years, had many great matches together, but this time they were just going for the Rock Austin kind of tribute match. And I said to Selby after this match, he was sitting on the apron, and I just went, man, that was just a match that makes you smile, you know? And he's like, yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. I was like, you know, it's just fun, you know? You don't always have to have this epic match where you take it so seriously, you know? And so I put in the Limp Bizkit song My Way there to kind of, again, Rock Austin tribute. That song is very much associated with their rivalry from WrestleMania 17 in particular, obviously. And, you know, Short Round doing the Rock turnbuckle sells was amazing. The ring post. So I love putting this video together, and felt like the match deserved it, you know, and was just another bit of another slice of backyard wrestling that I felt needed to be represented. You know, we just saw an incredible match with Chris Taylor and Danny Legend, and this is a completely different type of match where it's not about execution and psychology in terms of the, you know, making a really great match. It was about doing this fun tribute match in a way, and maybe they don't see it like that as a tribute match, but it's definitely how I saw it. And not to say that anything they did in this match wasn't good, obviously not. You know, right there we see Selby bumping very cleanly, but they're not doing their normal moves, they're not doing their normal stuff, they're just doing all the Rock Austin spots, and it's just this weird middle ground where it works as a match, you know, and it's just a lot of fun. And so that's why I had to include it, I think. And another two guys who just, you know, were awesome and I was big fans of, Selby in particular. We never got to wrestle, unfortunately, and there's a whole story behind that, but me and Short Round had many matches together, and he was one of my favorite people to wrestle. Just so easy, so fun, and I think a lot of that came from his influences, you know, like, you know, Rock, Stone Cold, and the stuff that I grew up loving as well. And so very easy to wrestle and very easy to kind of get on the same page about the matches that we had. And yeah, like I said, it's a different part of backyard wrestling. You know, we have the backyard wrestling with the big spots with the ladders and the tables and things like that, and the people who do the high flying, the people who do the technical stuff, and then the people who, well, not even that Selby and Short Round did this a lot, if ever, but, you know, almost at any given moment you can go out there and do something different, you know, if you choose to. And that's the great thing about backyard wrestling, is that we had that choice, and they had that choice, and they chose to do it like this, and it was great. Just something different, you know, something different. And we created our own kind of bubble, and within that bubble anything was acceptable, I feel like. And so, you know, I mean, you couldn't really do this in pro wrestling. Maybe you could. I could probably see this working at like an attack show or something like that. You know, people do enjoy when you do this kind of thing, but backyard was so unique and so singular. You know, it's something that'll never be recreated the way that it was with us in the UK backyard wrestling community, I don't feel. And then we have Selby kind of locking in his Selby submission special, so he did kind of throw in his own move there, and that was kind of a nice twist to the end of it, I think. But I think Selby at this point had kind of basically retired. He had this big match with Tyrant at Britfest that year, and I think he probably only had a handful of matches after that, you know, including this one. But this one, you know, it was very like always at Heat Fest, always at Big Interfeds. People, oh, Selby, do you want a match? Selby, do you want a match? He'd get hounded with these requests, probably by me as well at some point. But this was one where he probably knew that he could go out with one of his best friends in backyard wrestling and just have a fun match, and not worry about kind of living up to the standards that he'd already set as being one of the best in the UK, I think. And that's probably one of the big appeals to doing a match like this, is that, you know, again, they didn't need to have a match of the year. They just needed to kind of make us smile, make us cheer, and we did. And they covered the ring and beer, which was probably fun for the next guys who wrestled. But then again, it was so hot that, you know, that beer probably evaporated very quickly. In fact, no, I think I remember people mopping it up. We had this mop for some reason. But yeah, after that was the big death match with Farrell and Tyrant. This was a very crazy spot in a very spot fest filled match between Bob and Sergeant Loz, and that was just funny for some reason. I don't know why I included that. And then we got Joey caught underneath the cage panel. Yeah, that Bob and Sergeant Loz match was very spotty, but man, the spots were incredible. I remember there's like an F5 onto a car and massive leg drop off the scaffold. It's crazy the lengths that we'd go to kind of pop, our peers in a way. And that's another interesting but backyard wrestling is that we weren't trying to entertain a crowd it wasn't an audience. We were entertaining ourselves, and so in that way it was almost harder to kind of get people to mark out, but tough crowd, but there's a very supportive atmosphere too. So, but it's just interesting when you think about it like that. You're not trying to entertain an audience, you're trying to entertain each other and the people who are on the same level as you, and that's quite an interesting concept. So we got DOD there, kind of very much kind of feeling the effects of the past few days. He had a big match against Mannix, and just chilling out on the ring. Joey there looks like he's had all the fun drained out of him. As DOD there, I suspect he may be a homosexual. And I grabbed this brief kind of pre-match interview with Alex. Compilation of people saying good one. I think Shane gave the best one there. Shane always had the best good ones. And I was going to mention that earlier as well, that Dave, I was talking about Dave earlier, he had all these catchphrases that he'd kind of invented for himself, like, yeah, good one, and oh right, oh, just go down. Like, he had all these things, and so this was at the height, the zenith of the good one phase, and so I had to I like that that's recorded as well in the documentary. But yeah, I grabbed that little pre-match interview with Alex because Alex was fast becoming one of my best friends, in the world at this point. We got on so well after that kind of first year getting to know each other. Well, I guess it's probably in about 8 months probably at this point that we really, because there was Britfest 2005, so yeah, about 9 months I'd say. And I was so excited for him that he was going to get to wrestle Tyrant because later on Alex and Tyrant would have a series of incredible matches, but at this point Alex was still almost like Dave, like seen as a bit of a joke, seen as perhaps, and I should turn my phone off now, I should have been more aware to do that before. But yeah, Alex definitely, he wasn't taken seriously as a wrestler, even though he was a good wrestler, and it was down to the fact that he was, people call him Cruiser fan, and how goofy he could be sometimes and things like that, I suppose, and how quiet he was as well, and so he was never taken very seriously, and a lot of our feud that we had together was based on that. But for me, I was just so excited because I knew he could have a great match with Ty, and they had a really good one here. I love that scissor kick on the apron, such a great spot, that curb stomp, and then coming up this, which was just disgusting, and I can't believe that John was willing to do this match after he had this big death match with Farrell the day before. I remember the morning of this day in the hotel, Tyrant came into the room, and I think Steve Farrell said, oh, maybe Tyrant wants to wrestle the Cruiser fan today. And John just kind of looked over at Alex with this kind of grin, like, yeah, maybe, man, I don't know. And it seemed like, nah, he's not going to do it. But then he did, and fair play to Tyrant, I love that match, and it had to be the closing match of this video. Got them hugging after the match and stuff, and yeah, it was really cool. And now 8 p.m. the Riviera, the final day, the 78th hour almost, you could say. I wanted to record this too. I wanted to record, the ring being taken down, the melancholy that comes with the end of a wrestling event. Even though we're all joking around here and stuff, it's like, it's almost like this heightened sense of fun where it's like we've only got like half an hour together, before everyone has to go home, and so let's make the most of it. And so we're winding up Joey, we're all this stuff's going on, and so I whipped my camera out to kind of record this last moment. There's me in the background there. I still have the shorts that I'm wearing that look almost completely different now because they're so faded. And that was another little in-joke there, me doing the kind of pull the pants down gesture that came from Callum. There we go, there's a rare sighting of me in the video. And just Dave in general, Dave, just put Dave and Joey together, you're guaranteed to get, I think someone kicked a can into my knob or something. And there we go, there's Joey giving me the little little twat. Shane, I forgot about that. Shane walking past with Rockstar's jacket, that was brilliant. Again, just the bottom line for this is it just makes me smile, and I'm so glad that I did it, And then they had to take the scaffolding down, and this whole ordeal was another thing unto itself, because of course you'll notice there's not many people around at that point. That's because everyone went home before the ring was taken down, you know. And this is a this is a very common backyard trait amongst backyarders, where, especially if a ring is involved and it needs to be taken down, you know, oh, we need to get going early. Yeah, we'll see you later. You know, have fun taking the ring down. They even show you again. I don't know who was filming that. I think Farrell was filming at this point. I kind of handed the camera to him. But yeah, it's always a melancholy feeling at the end of an interfed that was as good as this. And there's John there with the gay, which is again a whole other labyrinth of in-jokes. You know, there's too many to cover. You know, just ones that people who were there will remember. And for some reason, Joey ended up rolled up inside gay. For some reason, Joey ended up rolled up inside one of the ring padding, you know, segments there. And so DOD and Farrell just sat on top of it. I just don't know why this happened, how it happened. And this is one of my favourite bits, probably my favourite bit, you know. Alright, Nada, where'd you get this ring from? Because it's actually talking and it sounds like a knob. Okay, maybe this captures the melancholy. Just look at Steve's face there, come on. He's gutted. He is gutted that Heat Fested. I mean, we all were, but I think Farrell took a special kind of downedness to the end of Interfeds, you know, because not that it wasn't for all of us, but for him, I think backyard wrestling was his life for so long. And yeah, it was for us too. I should say that, you know, definitely. But I feel like he had a little bit more invested in it than perhaps we did. But we, you know, fun little story from, again, like I said, just kind of trying to savor the moments that you can get people to laugh and, you know, and kind of get your humor and enjoy your company. And, you know, see, there's like Shane on his phone there, you know, just get such a going home vibe from this. And actually, when we went home, the six of us, it was quite the incident, which I didn't get to film because I think a lot of us were scared shitless. We got back to London, Marylebone with Steve. Steve went one way, we went the other, and when we got to the barrier, we got stopped by the security because we were all using a family pass on the train tickets, and of course, not all of us, well, none of us were childs, in fact. So I think 4 of us, of the 6, were supposed to be child tickets, and the other 2 were adults. And so they clocked the fact that we weren't all childs, and so he took our tickets from us, well, he fined us, I guess, but Louis had to pay for it, unfortunately, I think. So it was a rough ride getting home, but it's nice to look back on this train ride before that madness started, before we knew that we were about to, you know, hit a big stumbling block on our trip home. And there we go. That's the end, I suppose. There's a bit more, but yeah, I think that's a still image I took with my camera, SWF, on one of the boards, one of the tables, I think. So we got some, you know, film by me, additional filming by Alex and Steve, and then all the people who are featured. I think I misspelled someone's name here. I leave someone out. I can't remember. I seem to think that they're Steve Austin and Brock Lesnar. Those are the 2 kids. No, there's no mistakes there. And I used the Beach Boys song here because there's very much a Steve song, and just the fact that we ended with Steve and that kind of, you know, the kind of Hawaiian shirt almost, it felt appropriate. And just good vibrations. It's such a fun, happy song. It was a good way to end it. And this was just a random advert I saw on the side of a tube, tunnel, that I just filmed and included for no other reason than that I liked it and I filmed it and put it into the video. And here we go. This is about 1 o'clock in the morning. We're on the train back to Cardiff, which, again, when we got to Cardiff, whole other story. It took us like an hour and a half to walk home because we couldn't get a taxi, and there was a guy who drove past, his car window had been smashed and his friends had been literally kidnapped out of his car. Like, it's ridiculous. The most ridiculous trip home ever. But again, it's fun to remember this segment of the trip where, you know, we bought the new tickets, but at least we were having fun again at last. And Louis drunk and all the Strongbow cans were mounting up, which is brilliant. And I was trying to get Louis to kind of fire off a bit on JJ Cage because he got really mad at him. He was like, JJ Cage, help me move this bastard ring. He was stomping up and down on the hill. I'd never seen Louis mad before. So I was trying to instill some of that rage in him again, but he was still I mean, he kind of had to go at him a little bit, which is hilarious, but he didn't get back into that rock star angry mood because I think it takes too much to get him there. But he definitely was still very critical of JJ Cage at this point because, yeah, Joey just didn't help with the ring at all because apparently he tied his shoelaces too tight when he played football and his feet were hurting. There's another classic Shane, good one. And again, classic advice from Gav, coming up. Hey, if you can't laugh at your crippled nan, who can you laugh at? Big grin on his face. Like, it's just one of my favourite quotes of all time. And then Dave comes out with something very unsavory here, which, again, I don't know if I'm glad that I recorded this, but yeah, I'm not even going to repeat it. But if you've seen it, you probably know what I'm talking about when Dave says that coming up. But again, it's just fun to see this stuff and this whole experience. The fact that it was captured was great. And I'm not patting myself. There we go, Dave saying it. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'm just so happy that I decided to do this, and it's always a blast to revisit it. And we end with Nikki saying that the war in Lebanon is a very serious issue. Thank you for listening.